How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. Well, it's Friday on the show. Everybody loves a Friday edition of Wrestling Observer Live because you never know where we might go. All the shows have been reviewed and not a lot of huge news, although there is some. And a lot to get into today. And we might even have time to talk about wrestling, professional wrestling in the Olympic Games. I do, in fact, think we will have time for that here today. But a lot to get into, not the least of which is the set. So we talked about the hiring of Michael Mansouri from WWE, and he was going to AEW. And on the Observer radio show on Monday, Dave said, we should see changes Wednesday. I said, no. Takes a while to get these things going. Chalk up a win for me for once. These changes will be going into effect at the beginning of the year because, in fact, it takes time to get your ducks in a row. But we'll tell you about that here today. Plus the numbers for Ring of Honor Final Battle. We'll tell you how that show did. We've got more notes on Sasha Banks and her deal with New Japan Pro Wrestling. We've got FTR talking about their match with the Briscoes, which, in fact, Dax considers his masterpiece. His masterpiece was the dog collar match at the Final Battle pay-per-view, which was a completely fantastic match, by the way. The only real argument is, was it better than the first one they had a year ago at Final Battle? That is up for you to decide. We've got the Dynamite ratings. Chris Jericho's doing a movie. Jonathan Gresham has signed a contract with Impact Wrestling. And a lot more to talk about here today as well. If you want to text us, 425-780-7566. That is 425-780-7566. Back in a moment. Observer Live.
It's time to play Which Movie Did Dave Bautista Say This Line In? Quote number 1. I like your knife, I'm keeping it. Did Batista say this in A, Army of the Dead, B, Stuber, C, Dune, or D, Guardians of the Galaxy? He said this particular quote on Guardians of the Galaxy. Quote number 2. I think I broke something deep inside. Did he say this line on My Spy, Guardians of the Galaxy, Final Score, or Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2? Batista had this line on My Spy. Quote number 3. It's a baby gun. It allows you to fire it while crying. Did Batista say this line in A, Kickboxer Vengeance, B, Stuber, C, Final Score, or D, Army of Thieves? He had this line on Stuber. Quote number 4. I've mastered the ability of standing so incredibly still that I become invisible to the eye. In which film did Dave Bautista say this quote? A, Guardians of the Galaxy, B, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, C, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, or D, Thor, Love and Thunder? He actually said this line on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Quote number 5. If it's a choice between dying on the strip and spending another day flipping patties at the Lucky Boy, I'll gamble on a few million. Did Batista say this particular quote in A, Bushwick, B, Riddick, C, Heist, or D, Army of the Dead? He actually said this quote on Army of the Dead. That's it for this trivia game. Thank you guys for playing. I will catch you on the next commercial break. But in the meantime, let's get back to Wrestling Observer Live.
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. You know what? Let's do it. Let's talk about the Olympics real quick. Why are you groaning?
I'm not groaning.
I say we should talk about it real quick and give people plenty of time to send me their feedback. I want to hear what people have to say about this. It's not going to take long. I'm not going to do a full IOC presentation. But essentially, we were talking about it a little while ago. Could you do pro wrestling in the Olympics? And I violently shot the idea down. And, there were people that said, you could do this. And I want to make it abundantly clear, I don't think there's any chance it's ever going to happen, okay? But I decided I was going to do what do they call it? Like a
presentation?
No, like a game. Could I argue in favor of the possibility of doing a mental exercise?
It's your favorite game in the whole wide world.
Clearly,
I
need more mental exercises, clearly. So anyway, I thought about this, and when I shot it down, there were a few main reasons. Number one is, how do you judge these matches? Right? That's the obvious thing. You and me do a match. Dave and Lance do a match. Vinny and Craig do a match. Well, how do you judge them? Because there's so many different styles of wrestling. There's so many different things that different people like. So, how do you do this? And I was thinking about it, and obviously you would need competent judges, right? And listen, you and me could both watch a match, all right? You and I could both watch a match, and Vinny could watch a match as well. And we could all think different things about the match. But, for example, MJF and Ricky Starks on Dynamite. I don't think the three of us would watch the match. And, one of us would say, well, that was 5 stars. And then one of us would say that was no stars. I don't think that would happen with us, okay? But if you've been on my timeline, there are people that would say, yeah, that match was no stars. I thought it sucked, okay? So clearly you would need some competency with your judges. And then the other thing is this, okay? If I watched the Ring of Honor pay-per-view, I think that I could fairly look at all of the different styles and give star ratings for all of those. And I think that I would be fair about that. I think Dave would be fair about it as well. Probably you, okay? But, here's the thing. With, remember mixed, you know what mixed martial arts, that sport is?
I've heard of it, yes.
MMA? Okay. An MMA fight. What is the ideal way to judge an MMA fight? Well, the ideal way would be to get George St. Pierre, for example, have him watch a fight and tell you which guy won. Okay? That's the best way to actually judge the fight.
I'm not impressed with his performance.
But very early on in UFC, they actually did that, where, who won the fight? You pick. This did not last, okay? Because in a real sport, you can't just say, well, who won? There obviously have to be criteria, okay? So what you need is competent judging, and then you need a set of criteria. And I was directed to figure skating, and I'm not going to read this whole thing here, but if you've ever looked at the scoring system for figure skating, I mean, there's 5,000 words here about the judging criteria for figure skating. And it's the same way for gymnastics and other things like that. So I think that what you would have to do is you would have every country send 2 people to do a match, okay? And there would have to be at the beginning, here are the type of match that you're going to do. Doesn't mean you can't have Mexico send a lucha libre match, but it shouldn't be, you can send a hardcore match, You can send a death match. It should be you have to send a one-on-one professional wrestling match. If you want to do more high-flying in your match, that's fine. If you want to do whatever, that's fine.
Hey, wait a second.
One-on-one pro wrestling match.
Whoa, who is to decide who is professional wrestling? Aren't you? Wait a second. How
Hold
can
on.
you then? Go ahead.
You're making it more complicated, okay?
Go ahead. Well,
Mexico's going to send 2 guys to do a match. America's going to send 2 guys to do a match. Japan's going to send 2 guys to do a match. Whatever.
what,
Australia.
Bill Watts, can you jump off the top rope?
Yeah, you could do that. So what you would send your 2 people, and there would be certain requirements. Okay, one requirement would be the match has to be 5 minutes. Don't tell me you can't do a match in 5 minutes. You can. Okay. One of the best matches I ever saw at WrestleMania was just over 5 minutes. It was Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, and that was a masterpiece. You can do a 5-minute match. The requirements in the match were that here's my requirements. If you think there's different ones, whatever. I'm just telling you. The requirements would be like, you must do a little bit of technical wrestling. You must have a shine. You must have some heat. You must have a comeback sequence, and you must have a finish. Okay? Those are the requirements. Now, what you do during each of those 5 periods, that's up to you. Whatever you want. If you're a lucha wrestler, you're obviously going to do different technical wrestling than if you had Zack Sabre Jr. in there or if you had Bryan Danielson in there. But you showcase your technical wrestling. You showcase the shine by a babyface. You showcase a heat segment. You showcase a comeback where both guys are doing their near falls. And then you do a finish. Okay? Those are the requirements. The judges, to at least take out a little bit of bias, the judges should score you on how good was the selling. How good was it? How good was the offense? How good were your transitions? When you had to go from your technical wrestling and shine to the heat, how was the transition there? How was the transition from the heat to the comeback? The story of the match. Do you have a story where something at the beginning played into the heat, perhaps, which played into the comeback, which played into the finish? How was the story of the match? And then you get how well did you hit your time? Did you end in 3 minutes? Did you go over? How close were you? And if you have those 6 things to be scored upon and your 5 requirements, I think that you could fairly judge a series of matches in the Olympics. And obviously there would be more to it and everything like that because, with sports, people, they want all these requirements and scoring and blah, 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 blah. But I think that with a basic structure like this and basic requirements and basic judging criteria, you could do this. Do I think they ever will? I think it's highly unlikely. But this does take out a lot of different, what if the guy cuts himself? You can't. You're not allowed to gig, okay? You're just not. That's one of the rules. So I think you could do it. You got nothing?
Well, I mean, I could have a lot to shoot bullet holes in this. It just depends on how long you want to go with it.
Yeah, there's no bullet holes. Shoot one. Shoot one.
How do you have enough judges that you judge to be, and who are the ones that are determining the judges to be at a level, to have the aptitude enough to be able to cover all of this? How many countries are involved in sending this and sending people over to do this? How do you decide what versions of pro wrestling to eliminate? Okay, so there's not going to be hardcore. Is there going to be, shoot style, glate style?
Sure.
All of these things. And then you have the problem, who's going to watch any of this stuff? And when it comes to
who would watch pro wrestling in the Olympics?
Who then educates the fans as to what is actually going on here?
Who watches skeet shooting in the Olympics? Do they still do that?
People who are, I think decathlon they still do as part of that. But I mean, people who are, partial to those sports. That's who watches. That's who watches the Olympics to begin with. On top of the fact that how then do you go ahead and lay out a whole ecosystem for this, a whole structure, a power structure that would be involved in having not only this sport. It's easy to say you can go ahead and put it on TV. There are actual, commissions in each country that cover the Olympics.
Well, of course, there's a lot of that.
How do you set up the amateur skeletal system to get people who actually, can qualify to make it?
It's
to
called
be one of those
WWE and
wrestlers?
AEW and Ring of Honor and Impact.
So how does that help the Hungarian team? I
don't think a lot of Hungarians are winning the pro wrestling contest. Back in a moment, Observer Live.
It's time to play Which Movie Did John Cena Say This Line In? Quote number 1. It's not a toilet seat, it's a beacon of freedom. In which movie did John Cena say this line? A. The Suicide Squad. B. F9 The Fast Saga. C. Bumblebee. Or D. The Marine. John Cena said this line on The Suicide Squad. Quote number 2. I used to hold that girl in the palm of my hand. Did he say this in A. Daddy's Home, B. Daddy's Home 2, C. Ferdinand, D. Blockers? John Cena said this line on the movie Blockers. Quote number 3. Nothing like a bloodbath to start the day. Did John Cena say this in A. Blockers, B. The Suicide Squad, C. The Marine, or D. 12 Rounds? John Cena said this quote on The Suicide Squad. Quote number 4. Mark Wahlberg is like 150 pounds. I'm 250 lean. I look like Mark Wahlberg ate Mark Wahlberg. Did John Cena say this line in A. Blockers, B. Trainwreck, C. Vacation Friends, or D. Daddy's Home? This line was said by John Cena on Trainwreck. Quote number 5. Stop that couple, they have a bomb. Did John Cena say this in A. Vacation Friends, B. Blockers, C. Trainwreck, or D. F9 The Fast Saga? John Cena said this line on Vacation Friends. That's it for this trivia game. Thank you guys for playing. I will catch you on the next commercial break. But in the meantime, let's get back to Wrestling Observer Live.
You know, I actually did write something down.
Oh, yeah?
You want me to read it real quick?
Yeah.
All right, because it's very technical.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Within the sport of professional wrestling, there is a very specific scoring system that must be followed and is used for every discipline or style. This would be referred to as the IJS, International Judging System of Professional Wrestling. The two kinds of scoring you will receive during a pro wrestling competition is the technical score and the program components. Each technical element that is attempted in a program has a specific base value of points, which varies based on the element. Additionally, elements such as suplexes. Yes, suplexes. Technical wrestling sequences can achieve different levels, which can add or subtract points from the element's final score. At the end of the match, all of your technical element points will be added up to form your technical score. The second aspect to the scoring system in pro wrestling is the program components, determined by the overall presentation of your match be separated into 5 categories, as I read before: selling, offense, technique, transitions, and match story. Like the technical elements score, these categories will be added together at the end of the program to determine the program component score. Then you take your final technical element score and program component score, add them together to create your final match score.
Which is -5 stars for this pitch.
You're an idiot. A fool. This person goes, are you describing a Ring of Honor pure match rules? No.
Hey, who are the referees?
Bro, you can't find 9 Hall of Famers to referee these matches around the world? Bro. Come on.
What if they're on the take? Wrestlers are known for being, shady with their brothers and sisters.
Why don't
and
you
all
ask
that.
these same questions about every sport in the Olympics? Where are you going to find 9 judges for figure skating?
Wait a second.
What if they're on the take?
As far as people on the take, as far as a whole bunch of shady stuff going on, that comes up about the Olympics all of the time.
Exactly.
And now you're bringing in the biggest gangsters in the world, the biggest workers in the world, the workers in. I don't think you're going to make anything any better.
Well, I'll read these comments from the fans here as we get going. 425-780-7566. That is 425-780-7566. And by the way, my final comment here is that statement I just read was, in fact, literally the exact rules for figure skating in the Olympics, which is an Olympic sport with a panel of 9 judges and is designed exactly the way I designed my professional wrestling presentation here. And it seems to me that this figure skating works every 4 years.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And you know who watches that, Brian? Did you ever see the demographics of who watches figure skating during the Olympics? So are you going to bring in all of these women now, all of these older women especially? That's who's going to be in. How does wrestling make a better Olympics? How does it make it a more, because they've tried to add sports. They've tried to add X Games types of things and all sorts of things to try to update the Olympics to make it more of a, especially, I guess, in the Western countries, a more entertaining show to watch, something to invest in since they spend billions of dollars on TV, on television for the rights to this thing. NBC's got it for what? God knows when. I mean, we're talking into like the trillions here by the time all is said and done. How does wrestling actually add anything to the Olympics? Especially right now, and it's at its lowest point ever.
For sponsors that are
what
watching.
Viewership?
What viewership
does
you ever look at the
wrestling
cable
get?
charts?
Dude, what
you think
viewership?
Nobody's going to watch pro wrestling in the Olympics?
What viewership does wrestling get right now that could add to the Olympics that the Olympics would want? We're at the lowest point ever as far as people watching wrestling on television. And as bad as the Olympics are doing, you could take almost all of those other sports,
We're at the lowest point ever because
run
nobody's
them in
watching
prime
television.
time and do a better job than actually have wrestling in the Olympics.
Bro,
That's
listen.
crazy.
Listen.
Silly.
We're at the lowest point of
Silly.
people watching wrestling on television because no one's watching television. The numbers have plummeted.
Listen to this.
Bro, hey, listen. When pro wrestling is no longer in the top 50,
Brian,
get back to me. When it's
listen,
no longer in the top 10,
let me tell you something.
get back to me.
Let me tell you something, champ. When they stop paying money, that the rates that they're paying for the Olympics, for the Super Bowl, for events like that, when they stop doing that for television, then you get back to me.
Well, hey, when they stop paying that money for pro wrestling, you get back to me. Because we're going to get a new pro wrestling deal for WWE pretty soon, and it ain't going to be cheap, dude. Because
and guess what?
They're
none of it would relate to actually giving
sports.
the Olympics any reason to bring in a. Come on, give me a
pro
break.
wrestling #1 behind all sports. You couldn't possibly, have that be part of the Olympics. No, that would be ridiculous.
Because it's
That would be
stupid. No, and you
preposterous.
couldn't. No, you absolutely couldn't.
Why don't we look at some figure skating cable numbers and then get back to me?
It's completely different. You're taking
skeet shooting
bullshit.
on
You're taking
cable.
apples and oranges to try to make some sort of comparison here. Oh, we'll take skeet shooting numbers and compare it to. Give me a break.
Do
That
it.
means nothing in the
That
grand
actually
scheme
does.
of things of sport. Not when it comes to sport, it doesn't.
Nobody's watching skeet shooting on cable, but they're in the Olympics. So I'm pretty sure if you put professional wrestling in the Olympics, it would do well.
Are you sure?
I
are you
can't even
sure
believe
that
we're arguing
Brian?
this.
Are you sure that a lot of people in sports then would not look at the Olympics and go, you know what? This has now fallen to such a farcical level that we won't have any involvement in it at all, or we won't watch it at all.
Well, no, you don't tell people it's real unless you're crazy.
You're bringing in wrestling to the Olympics and then saying we're going to present this as synchronized swimming, or please,
exactly
please, everybody, look at it as figure skating. Do you think anybody's? No way. Are you kidding me? People don't look at pro wrestling now.
God.
I don't have any faith in humanity because when things happen in pro wrestling, people blow it off. People die. People OD. People have all of these issues and people blow it off because it is pro wrestling. You telling me on a grand scale, a bunch of people who are uneducated about pro wrestling don't want anything to do with it, but actually care about sports or the Olympics or something like that, they're going to do the research all of a sudden? And frankly, does wrestling have anybody that would actually go out there and do any of this stuff to lay the goodwill down to try to even get it into the Olympics? Give me a break.
Well, I told you that wasn't going to happen, but don't sit here and tell me that, oh, you can't have pro wrestling in the Olympics because
hey, you know what?
Know what
you also could you could have competitive nipple piercing in the Olympics.
No, you couldn't.
Because yes, you could have competitive tattooing. Why? That gets big numbers on cable, right? Sometimes it gets huge numbers. Yes, it does with Black Ink, all those shows. All those shows get enough numbers on cable. Certainly more than skeet shooting, so we should add that to the Olympics, right?
What are you going to do, synchronize tattooing? Now I want to hear
I could
your
have a
argument
judge
for
art. I could have a judge for the original art. I could have a judge for the color. I could have a judge for... You could come up with all the same BS ways to do it in the same way you came up with the BS ways for wrestling.
I cannot wait to get the feedback here today. 425-780-7566.
Open up the phone lines, coward. It's your last day here until you bail on all of these good people for a week. Open up the phone lines and get your comeuppance.
You are asking me to open up the phone lines?
Just because I know people are going to bomb you out the building.
I would be happy to open up the phone lines. Is that what you want?
Bombs over Brian. Let's go.
All
yes.
Right. Well, after the break, I'm opening up the phone lines. And I don't want you complaining about it afterwards, which I know you're going to do. Final battle. Dave Meltzer reported that based on the first week estimate, the show did more than 25,000 pay-per-view buys, comprised of 19,000 via streaming, 6,400 on linear platforms. The number is up from Supercard of Honor, which did 23,000, but it would be down from the Death Before Dishonor show with 37,000. So those are the numbers for the... And I think we all knew this show was not going to do giant numbers based on the build for it, and it was a good show, but you buy the show in advance. That's how it usually works. New details available regarding Sasha Banks' deal. Dave Meltzer addressed her status in the latest Observer newsletter. Noted the agreement is with New Japan. It does include one Stardom date, likely a major show that the promotion has planned for the spring. Deal was with New Japan, would include one date for Stardom, be a show for the spring. Bushiroad is hoping that Banks' large social media following will help draw fans and build the public perception of the company. The belief is that with 5.6 million followers on the Insta and 2.4 on Twitter, far more than any of their talent, that she has gigantic mainstream appeal.
Sasha's going to represent Japan in the Bryan Olympics.
Well, they could send her if they wanted to. Voice of Wrestling claimed her deal is the largest per-event agreement that New Japan has ever made, including Chris Jericho's. Jericho's deal, however, was based on various percentages as opposed to a flat rate. He said, for the record, the money I reportedly made during my run with New Japan online currently is completely wrong, said Jericho. I've never had a flat per-appearance deal. I was paid according to the event, and I made more per event than I did for most of my WrestleMania matches. Banks negotiated with WWE over the summer, reached an agreement she would become a free agent at the start of 2023. According to Dave, she was said to be seeking a number along the levels of Becky and Charlotte, and those internally have said she wasn't offered numbers close to that. They said that she is not seen internally as somebody who would be on top for the next 5 years. I can only imagine Dave's Twitter today when everybody takes that out on him.
A lot of people taking it out on Charlotte. You know, when it comes down to who you're going to choose, who do you look at as a bigger star? Is it Sasha or Charlotte? Charlotte's been gone for a while. I think she's missed, but is she missed enough by everybody where if she were to not come back for 6 more months, anybody's beaten down the door? You know, there's no Charlotte chance or anything like this. And one thing is for sure, I think WWE definitely has its eyes, even though they're saying, you know, sure, they're not at the level maybe of Becky or Charlotte, that we're getting towards, with Bianca Belair, with Rhea Ripley, with some of the people they have in their system, you know, I think they're going to be moving on from a lot of these women here in the next couple of years.
Back in a moment with more Observer Live.
All right, movie lovers, we are back with some more trivia. Which movie did The Rock say this line in? Part 2. Quote number 1. This is a video game, which means we have special skills. Did The Rock say this in A, Central Intelligence, B, Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, C, Jumanji The Next Level, or D, Jungle Cruise? Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson said this in Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle. Quote number 2. I'm a good guy, but sometimes I do bad things. Did he say this in A, Red Notice, B, Baywatch, C, Black Adam, or D, The Fate of the Furious? The answer we were looking for is Red Notice. Quote number 3. I'm what you call an ice-cold can of whoop ass. Did The Rock say this in A, Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw, B, Fast and Furious 6, C, Furious 7, or D, Pain and Gain? He said this quote on Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw. Quote number 4. What are you talking about? I just passed my driver's test last month again. Did he say this in A, Jumanji The Next Level, B, Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, C, The Game Plan, or D, The Tooth Fairy? The Rock said this line on Jumanji The Next Level. Quote number 5. But camels are smarter. Did Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson say this quote on The Scorpion King, Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, or The Mummy Returns? He said this particular quote on The Scorpion King. Let's get back to Wrestling Observer Live. Enjoy, everyone.
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Hey, the phone lines are open. Mike wanted some callers here today, so I'm happy to oblige. If you would like to call, the phone number, and listen carefully, geeks. Don't screw this up. I mean that in the nicest way possible. If you want to call on the telly, 844-913-2727. That is 844-913-2727. If you want to text 425-780-1037. 844-913-7566.
Listen to this.
So if you want to
This guy
call,
thinks that you're too dumb to actually know how to call or
you're too dumb to
text.
even let me explain this to everybody first. If you want to call, 844-913-2727. If you want to text, 425-780-7566. I don't want to hear anybody talk about how I make this too clear. Somebody messes up every single time. Don't call the text line. Don't text the 800 line. Got it? Now, shall I?
Sure.
Dude, this phone bank is full. Full. All right. Rick, you're on the air. What's going on, Rick?
Bryan, Mike, thanks for taking the call. And Mr. Alvarez, and I can call you Mr. Alvarez. Let me correct you. It is the Guardian of Chaos. That's my handle. But thanks for taking
You
the
happy,
call.
Mike? Yes, what's up?
In regards to what you guys are talking about, pro wrestling in the Olympics, I'm going to try to be as honest as I can. I think you both have a point.
Of course.
Mike is dead on when he says it would make the Olympics look farcical.
No, he's wrong about that one.
Will you shut up and let the man talk?
Well, Bryan, hold on, Bryan. Hold on now. Mike, I agree with that. I think fans would look at it and then start questioning the legitimacy of the athletes of the Olympics, although pro wrestlers are legitimate athletes. But I also agree with Bryan when he says, I think it would bring in ratings and it would bring in fans.
Of course
I have to agree with that. So I think both sides of the coin, although edgy, a touchy situation, I think both of you have valid points. Thank you from the Guardian of Chaos. I love you.
Guardian of Chaos, I want to thank you very much for the call. But, bro, if I have to explain this one more time, I'm going to flip my lid.
Maybe there's a
Mike,
fault in what
hold
you're
on.
saying then if you keep having to
No.
explain it over and over again.
No. Nobody is doing pro wrestling in the Olympics and pretending it's real. Nobody. You would be stupid. You would be absolutely beyond stupid to say, hey, we got a
Bryan,
new sport. It's
You are
professional
missing
wrestling.
the point.
No.
The point is, once you put it in there, people are going to look at that and go, pro wrestling, forget about whether they believe it's real or not. It's 2022. Nobody believes that it's real, okay? But
So
for
then what's
heaven's
the problem?
sakes, you put it in there, it just brings down the level of everything else, especially for people who are fighting for eyeballs for their sport. The only time that these Olympic sports get any attention is that time of year, and you are now taking away resources on top of it to actually go ahead and do this, on top of the fact that, again, who is funding this whole operation from the ground up, grassroots in every country?
Vince and Tony Khan doing it together.
Oh, yeah, Vince and Tony,
Yeah,
especially
they're going to work together for the good
Come
of
on.
the pro wrestling business. Joshua, you're on the air. What's up?
So I sent a text message about this earlier, but basically people talk about how wrestling fans have a big tribal issue with each other back and forth. Can you imagine just how terrible that would be from that aspect if you had wrestlers from different companies at the Olympics?
Well,
That sounds like a
of course. But I mean,
nightmare.
have you ever been on those skeet shooting forums? Brutal.
Oh, wait. Yeah, but yeah, brother, hey, we're going to work together. We're going to screw. Can you imagine that scandal? Because there has not been anything ever in the history of man that professional wrestling, people involved with it, have not tried to exploit or not tried to
What,
work.
you're trying to tell me that two people sent from one country are going to screw with each other? And that doesn't even make any sense.
Why,
The whole point
brother?
is to work together
Somebody
to have a
else
good match.
somebody else is giving me bigger money from. Come on, are you kidding me?
So you're going to walk in and have a bad match?
Double crosses have happened everywhere. People have sunk
You're right.
territories
Probably happened in figure skating, too.
purposely. It has.
What, do you think no one's ever
There's
whacked anybody in
scandal
the knee with
everywhere.
a pipe?
There's
in
scandal.
skating?
Oh, but which, by the way, we passing some USADA tests. Who really, brother? Are we going to do that?
Yeah, sure.
Who's we going to do the? Yeah,
Yeah.
Let's see how that goes.
Yeah, you could do it easy.
Oh, must ate horse meat. I can't believe it happened.
Well, you know. What's going on? Who is this? You're on the air.
Hi, my name is Bo.
Hello,
First
Bo.
time, long time.
Yes, Bo.
Yes, all I have to say is y'all make some good points,
Thank you.
but wrestling, predetermined, you have to think about governing bodies of sport. The Olympics want a world representation. What are we looking at with professional wrestling in a legitimate competing aspect of how many federal bodies of participating countries could you even represent? You need representation from Africa and top level, consistent country by country. Asia, I mean, what is it? Japan, Korea. There's not a lot of worldwide wrestling other than pockets.
Yes.
It's going to be dominated by the U.S., Japan, England.
Yes.
There's no competition that's not a worldwide sport like in the rest of the Olympic body.
Brian only cares about the first world anyway. They got the money.
Listen, you are absolutely right, okay? And never for one moment here did I argue that this was likely to actually happen for a lot of reasons. My argument is you could create a scoring system. You could create a way to fairly judge these matches from all over the world. And in fact, it would be a benefit. The television viewership of pro wrestling Olympics, off the charts. I'm telling you right now. It would be.
No way.
Yeah, it would be.
No way. Yeah, like
there's a lot of people
somebody's going to watch a match between somebody from Australia and whatever in Canada during the Winter Olympics when hockey's on.
There's a lot
Wrestling's
of people
going to be relegated to like 3 o'clock in the morning.
That agree that you are right about a lot of this, Matt or Mike. But what they disagree with is your idea that nobody's going to watch pro wrestling in the Olympics, because that's preposterous, and you know it.
When do you? Okay, let's be real about this. For the amount of money, that because it's NBC spends on the Olympics, right? For all of those other sports, for all of the other people that back those sports, right? For all of the advertisers, for all the big wigs, people on the Forbes, the very top of the list who have an interest in something. That's why their company sponsors those athletes. You know, whoever it is, whether it be the mail when it comes to the U.S. Postal Service, when it comes to downhill skiing or any of that sort of stuff. Like, where do you think you're going to just be able to walk in and go, pro wrestling? Pro wrestling is still, no matter how you cut it, the last thing on network TV. What is one of the least rated shows? It's always wrestling, no matter how good SmackDown
it's not.
is.
That's my point. Raw on Monday beat virtually every single show on cable and network. Both. Monday, which was a horrible rating. It still beat almost everything on network and cable on Monday night. People would watch it, dude.
Does it beat the NBA?
It's not going to beat the NBA, but it's going to
Then it doesn't matter. Then it doesn't matter because that's what it's going to be judged against.
That are in the Olympics.
But it doesn't matter. That's what it's going to be judged against by the people that, you know, if you're fighting for TV time, you have too much working against it, too much real life stuff where there's no way they're going to give wrestling a prime time spot in either the summer or the Winter Olympics. There's no way, Brian. None.
There is a way. Yes, obviously the highest rated Olympic sports would be given precedence over pro wrestling.
How much money are the Olympics? Let me see. NBC Olympics. Let me see how much they're paying for
Well, do that. I'm going to this phone. You're on the air. Lynn, Massachusetts. What's going on?
Hello?
Hello? What's up?
Hi, this is Ken from Peabody.
All right, what's up, Ken?
And, to Brian's points, these are things that can be done. The proof in recent years was skateboarding getting in the Olympics because
how about that?
There has never been, as far as set rules and governing bodies and things, there's always been lots of different little ones. And so it's possible it can be done. And the other thing to remember in regard to, say, skateboarding going in the Olympics, Tony Hawk said it best before it ever happened that the Olympics need skateboarding more than skateboarding needs the Olympics, and it could end up a spot where the Olympics need the ratings badly enough that they'll need pro wrestling more than the other way around. And Brian, your blueprint is pretty good. Give it a shot. Thanks.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much for the call.
Skating, and that's great that Tony Hawk said that, because it's always like the soccer thing too, where it's like, soccer's always, it's going to be the next big sport in America. It's always going to be the next big sport in America because it'll never make it. You can say that about skating. The Olympics need skating. Really? more than they need a lot of other sports that they have. They're looking to shave off sports. That's another one of the things that has
this
happened.
is all irrelevant to the fact that you could do professional wrestling in the Olympics. That's his entire point.
You could do anything you wanted, but you could do anything you wanted in the Olympics.
If I would have had Darby Allin on this show 3 years ago, if there was no skating in the Olympics, no
now you're just going to talk out of your rear end.
If I would have had him on the show 3 years ago, and I said, you know why Darby's here? He wants to argue there should be skateboarding in the Olympics. You would have done the exact same thing that you've been doing for the last hour. And guess what? There's skateboarding in the Olympics. Because
they've had that stuff. They've had those types of things in the Olympics for a long time now. It's over the Winter Olympics and the whole thing with the X Games. So that has been going on for a while. But, I mean, come on, give me a break. You can put almost any activity like this then into the Olympics. That's what you're arguing isn't much. But you don't actually argue. You can actually say could, but you have no way to actually back it up with anything. You named the judging, and that was it. And even that is incredibly soft, and you can blow holes in that. Explain how you actually make the whole rest of the thing function in the Olympic solar system. Just give me a little bit of how.
Oh, you want me to go read all the stuff on skateboarding and get back to you on Monday? I don't think anybody wants that, but I could.
No, I didn't ask you that. I asked you to try to actually give me a way where it's not just judging, that you can actually go through what you need to go through to get wrestling in the Olympics.
Well, bro, Tony, you're on the air. What's going on? I explained at the very beginning this is exceedingly unlikely to happen. I'm just telling you how you could do it. Yes.
You started it then.
Tony.
Mike, we disagree on a lot of things. Go Phillies, go Eagles, but I'm 100% on your side because I just think it would be a logistical nightmare.
Well, of course it would. No one's arguing that. It would be a logistical nightmare, yes, but it could be done.
It could be done, but how are you judging it? You said with judges for matches, but are we judging by star rating? Who does the best match?
Well, I explained
and what would
all
the
of
metal
this, Tony.
podium? Well, wait, Brian. What would the metal podium even look like? Would you have the two guys in the match? Would you have the winner of the match?
Brother,
what would the gold
aware?
medal and bronze podiums look like?
Bro, you realize that there's pairs skating and etc. They managed to get the winners on a podium. That's the least of our problems.
Right. But you're acknowledging that everyone knows that wrestling is fake and predetermined. So you're going to have the two. You're going to have the two enemies on the podium together, celebrating after they have a match.
Of course, it's a performance.
I honestly think something like UWFI or Pancrase or UFC would work much better than wrestling. I don't disagree with that's not possible, but I think it would need a trial run. With multiple companies before it even happens, because there's too many things to figure out.
All I know is after your call, now everyone's on my side.
In the
thank you,
Olympic
Tony.
Village, that's what's going to happen. We're going to have a bunch of Greco-Roman guys and kickboxers also go in and beat the crap out of everybody else that's there from the wrestling
get out
side.
of here. Any other?
Hell yes, they
God,
would.
you're a geek. Back in a moment. Observer Live.
For all you movie buffs out there, it's time to play Which Movie Did The Rock Say This Line In? Part 1. Quote number 1. I may be a king, but I'm a wrestler first. Did The Rock say this in A, The Mummy Returns, B, The Scorpion King, C, Race to Witch Mountain, or D, Red Notice? This quote was said in The Scorpion King. Quote number 2. When I'm a guest in another man's house, I don't reach into his refrigerator without asking permission. Did The Rock say this in A, The Rundown, B, Be Cool, C, Walking Tall, or D, Gridiron Gang? The answer we were looking for is The Rundown. Quote number 3. Is it gonna be like this forever? Killing each other because you were born 5 blocks in the wrong direction? Did he say this in A, Doom, B, The Game Plan, C, Get Smart, or D, Gridiron Gang? The Rock said this particular quote in Gridiron Gang. Quote number 4. My gut says there's some bad shit going on over there, and my balls say we need to go over there and check it out. Did he say this in A, Central Intelligence, B, Baywatch, C, The Fate of the Furious, or D, Ballers? He said this line on Baywatch. Quote number 5. You don't get abs like these eating peanut butter patties. Did The Rock say this in A, Baywatch, B, Central Intelligence, C, The Game Plan, or D, Red Notice? The answer we were looking for is The Game Plan. I hope you guys had a good time playing this new game. I will be back with some more just like this one. But in the meantime, let's get back to Wrestling Observer Live. Enjoy, everyone.
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of Wrestling Observer Live. Hey, listen, Anthony, I love you, brother, but, USA basketball women's gold medal presentation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 12 people getting a medal at the same time. I'm pretty sure you can make this work with 2 geeks and a ref.
Honestly,
Which, by the way, if the ref is involved in this, think about his performance.
What if he gets bought off?
Hey, all I know is at the end of this show, now I just want to see wrestling in the Olympics.
I just want to see. Why not pole dancing?
It's
You'd
funny.
have you'd be better chance getting that in there. We're athletic
don't
sometimes.
bury pole, dude. They're very talented.
Was I burying my pole anywhere, Brian?
I see the longer, not for a while, the longer this show goes, the more people are like, Brian's right. Like,
no, okay, I'm so full of it.
All
That's
he's
what you're going
arguing
to do.
is you could do it.
Yeah, pack that up into your suitcase and take it on your adventure this week. Maybe you can open it up when you have a down day, and all these memories from this show will come flooding back to you of everybody that thought you were right. You kiss my rear end.
Lanum says, to Brian's point, the question about infrastructure are all answerable within reason. That's his point. This could happen if some sort of massive movement starts, and that it's not far from other, quote, performance events like figure skating. Thank you. That's the whole point. What, you want me to solve this whole problem in an hour on a radio show?
Yes.
No, it's 36 minutes without
You're the one who
commercials
brought
anyway.
it up. Don't bring up something and then say I can't actually finish, which you've said before, and
You're
then
a nerd.
just pack it up and go.
Before we go, everyone's asking about the schedule this week. I'm out of here. I've had enough of this show. I quit. So next week, Monday through Thursday, Mike is going to run the show. And then for the Brian and Vinny show Tuesday, yes, Vinny, Lance, and Craig are going to try for the first time ever to do the Brian and Vinny show on their own without Brian. So you can look forward to that. December 24th, the Christmas show. December 24th. It'll air at about 4 Pacific, 7 Eastern, I think, so you can look forward to that. Hey, we got great stuff coming up. Thanks, y'all. Thanks to my followers. I appreciate you. Have fun next week, Mike. I hope you open the phone lines to your